The morning sun streamed through the tall glass windows of Harper's Diner, painting golden streaks across the scuffed, checkerboard floor. Harper's was the kind of small-town American diner that time seemed to forget. Red vinyl booths, the rich scent of coffee lingering in the air, and a silent jukebox tucked in the corner. But on this particular morning, peace was nowhere to be found. The usual murmur of voices and the gentle clinking of cups was shattered when 3 men barged in, loud and brash. Their rough presence made the other patrons shrink back nervously into their seats. Behind the counter stood Clara, a young waitress barely in her 20s. Her apron was cinched tightly at the waist, her hair tied into a messy ponytail. She had been pulling double shifts for weeks, struggling to cover her mother's medication and rent. Clara had grown used to rude customers, used to people barking demands. But what unfolded that morning was more than rudeness. It was cruelty. The men singled her out, mocking her, snatching at her tray, laughing when she stumbled while balancing plates of food and steaming coffee. They muttered insults just loud enough for everyone to hear, turning her into a source of amusement while the room froze, too afraid to intervene. This wasn't just harassment. It was deliberate humiliation. Clara's eyes burned with tears, though she kept moving, her trembling hands gripping the plates tightly as she prayed she wouldn't drop them. The weight of her struggles pressed harder than ever. The exhaustion, the endless bills, the loneliness, and now this public shame. She felt invisible, except when people wanted to hurt her. If you believe that kindness, respect, and second chances matter, please take a moment to like this video, share it, and subscribe to Stories of Kindness. Your support allows us to keep sharing stories that touch lives. Just as Clara thought she couldn't endure another moment, the soft chime of the diner door cut through the tension. The bell jingled as a group of bikers walked in. Leather jackets covered in patches, each one marked with the unmistakable skull and wings insignia of the Hells Angels. The atmosphere shifted instantly. Conversations stopped mid-sentence, forks hovered in the air, and the 3 bullies who had been laughing moments before suddenly grew silent, their confidence crumbling as the bikers filled the room. At the front was Marcus, a tall, broad man with streaks of gray in his beard and eyes that were sharp yet not unkind. His presence commanded attention. People instinctively straightened in their seats as he walked by. The rest of the group followed, their boots thudding against the floor in steady rhythm. They didn't shout, didn't cause trouble. They simply entered as though they belonged. And yet, something in the air told everyone that everything had changed. Marcus's gaze found Clara at the counter. Her shoulders slumped, her cheeks flushed with embarrassment, her hands gripping the order pad like it was the only thing keeping her steady. His eyes narrowed, then shifted to the table of thugs, now pretending to study their menace. Without speaking, Marcus and 2 others slid into a booth near the back. Their very presence radiated a quiet strength that seemed to ease the tension in the room. But the torment wasn't over. As Clara served their drinks, one of the thugs, a thin man with tattoos crawling up his arms, muttered something vile under his breath. Then, with a smirk, he deliberately knocked his glass over, cola spilling across the table and dripping to the floor. Clara's heart dropped. She bent to clean the mess, her humiliation reaching its peak, when suddenly, a heavy hand landed on the thug's shoulder. Marcus loomed over him, his shadow swallowing the table whole. His voice was low, calm, and icy. He didn't need to raise it. "She's working hard. You don't treat people like that here." The diner froze. Every eye turned to the scene, every breath caught. The thug tried to laugh it off, but Marcus's hand remained, steady and unyielding. The weight of the Hells Angels wasn't violence. It was authority. An unspoken line that no one dared cross. The rest of the bikers had risen too, their expressions unreadable, but their solidarity made one thing clear: Clara was no longer alone. The bullies stammered, their arrogance gone. They tossed crumpled bills onto the table and hurried out, their footsteps quick and uneven. When the door finally shut behind them, the diner seemed to exhale. Voices slowly returned, but nothing felt quite the same. Clara stood frozen, rag in hand, body trembling. She glanced at Marcus, who simply gave her a single nod before sitting back down. No thanks required. No recognition needed. Yet inside Clara's chest, something shifted. A flood of relief, of gratitude, of hope. Maybe the world still held people willing to stand up for someone like her. The rest of her shift blurred by. The bikers stayed for breakfast, chatting quietly, never once making Clara feel uneasy. When it came time to leave, Marcus placed a thick tip on the counter. More than Clara usually earned in 2 shifts. She shook her head, trying to refuse, but his steady gaze held hers. "Take care of your mom," he said softly, before walking out with the others. Clara stood there long after they were gone. Sunlight spilling across the booths, her hands clutching the folded bills. For the first time in a long while, she felt seen. Not just as a waitress. Not as someone barely holding life together. But as a person who mattered. That day became a turning point. Word of what happened spread, not as a tale of violence, but as a story of respect. Of unlikely guardians who stepped in when kindness was needed most. And for Clara, it wasn't just about that single shift. It was about believing again. Believing that no matter how cruel the world can be, there will always be people willing to defend what's right. If this story touched you, please support Stories of Kindness by liking, sharing, and subscribing. Your small action helps us continue spreading hope, courage, and compassion. Before we close, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What would you have done if you witnessed Clara being treated that way? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your words might inspire someone else to be braver. And so, the sun kept shining on Harper's diner. The coffee still brewed. Plates still clattered. But for Clara, the world felt lighter, warmer. Because in her darkest hour, kindness walked through the door clad in leather and steel. And reminded her she was never truly alone.